The moment someone chooses another over you, let them have it, because your value was never up for debate. Let me ask you something, my friends. What if the very person you thought you couldn't live without was the one blocking your evolution? What if them walking away wasn't a tragedy, but the exact moment your real story was supposed to begin? I know it hurts. I know you feel like something was ripped out of your chest, but stay with me. This pain, it's not your ending, it's your edge. Go ahead, hit that like button, press subscribe, and turn on the notifications, because what I'm about to share with you will shift your entire mindset. This is for the people who've been left behind, overlooked, replaced, and told, without words, that they weren't enough. But trust me, that wasn't the truth. That was just their limited vision talking. So don't go anywhere. This one's for you. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a diamond buried in the dirt. You've been through pressure, heat, darkness, and finally you're at the surface, ready to shine. But someone walks by, sees the dust on you, and instead of picking you up, they choose a shiny pebble nearby. At first, it stings. You think, what's wrong with me? But let me ask you, does the diamond lose its value because someone picked the pebble? No, it becomes rarer. It becomes untouchable. You are that diamond. And their choice? That was just proof they weren't meant to carry something that precious. We've been fed lies since we were young, that if someone walks away, we must chase, that if someone chooses another, we must prove ourselves, that if we're not picked, we're not worthy. But let me break that nonsense once and for all. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's confusion. Just because they couldn't see your value doesn't mean it wasn't there. You don't beg to be loved. You don't audition to be kept. If they choose someone else, let them. Don't get bitter. Get better. Don't seek revenge. Upgrade your life so far beyond their reach, they couldn't catch up if they tried. You might feel like the one who lost, but you didn't. You just got redirected. You got handed a chance to become something they'd never have the discipline or depth to understand. Most people choose what looks easy, what feels familiar, what requires less, and when you're someone with weight, with depth, they get intimidated by that. They think they're walking away from you, but in truth, they're walking away from everything they secretly wanted, but weren't strong enough to handle. There's a little fun in it too, because while they think they've moved on, while they're chasing a momentary thrill, you're in the background, becoming someone unrecognizable. You're hitting the gym not to impress, but to transform. You're building your mind like a fortress. You're so focused, so locked in, so unavailable, that one day they'll scroll past your name and feel something they can't explain. That's not nostalgia. That's regret. Let them go, my friends. Let them chase the illusion. Let them believe they made the better choice, because one day they'll realize they didn't. But by then, you'll be long gone. Not just emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, and energetically. You won't be angry. You won't be bitter. You'll just be too far ahead. So, if you've been replaced, rejected, or chosen second, this is your call to rise, to rewire your identity, to evolve. Because the truth is simple. You didn't lose them. They lost access to you. Drop this in the comments right now. I evolve. I don't chase. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and stay with me, because by the time we're done, you'll never see rejection the same way again. Number 1, rejection is just redirection toward your power. Sometimes the door closes because it wasn't your door, it was just where you were hiding from who you're meant to become. Let's get this straight, my friends. Rejection is not the end of the world. It feels like it. Oh, it stings. It hits like a punch to the gut. But here's the truth they never told you. Rejection is redirection. And not just to anywhere, but straight into your power. Most people don't realize this until years later when they've wasted time crying over someone who was never meant to stay. Let's go deep with this. Imagine you're walking through a dense forest. You're following someone, trusting that they know the way. Then suddenly they take a sharp turn and vanish down a different path. You panic. You think, did I do something wrong? Should I follow them? But the longer you stand there, the more you realize that wasn't your path. That wasn't your journey, and the trail you're meant to take. It's still in front of you. You just haven't looked up yet. Rejection is like that. It doesn't block you. It reveals where you weren't supposed to go in the first place. But here's what happens in real life. Someone chooses someone else over you, and your mind spirals. You start asking the wrong questions. Why wasn't I enough? What do they have that I don't? Was I too much? Was I not enough? And the truth is, these questions don't lead to clarity. They lead to self-destruction. Because you start shrinking. You start molding yourself to become more acceptable, more likable, more pickable. And in doing so, you bury your power under layers of insecurity. Let's break this lie wide open right now. You were not rejected because you lacked something. You were redirected because you had too much for someone who couldn't hold it. Read that again. It's hard, I know. It's hard because we're wired to believe that being chosen validates us, that love is earned through performance, that our value is proven by how long someone stays. But those are illusions, planted deep by a world that wants you emotionally enslaved. And you, my friend, are not here to beg for acceptance. You're here to realize that rejection is the universe's way of clearing the path, not punishing you, positioning you. It hurts because you gave them your time, you shared your soul, you showed them your vulnerable side, the one you don't show anyone else. You imagined a future with them, and then, boom, gone. They didn't just walk away, they chose someone else. And that choice hits differently. It's not just that they left, it's that they actively decided you weren't the one. But let's reframe that. What if, instead of seeing it as abandonment, you saw it as release? What if they didn't reject you? They freed you from a version of life you were never meant to settle for. Because let's be honest, if they could leave you for someone else, they were never built to stay for the storm. They weren't cut from the cloth of real loyalty. They weren't ready for the kind of depth, devotion, and energy you bring. They wanted easy. You are fire. And not everyone can hold fire without getting burned. Now let me ask you, what if this was the test? What if the pain you're in right now is the furnace, and you're being reforged into someone unbreakable? What if their rejection wasn't your downfall, but your divine wake-up call? Because here's what happens when you truly understand this. You stop chasing people. You stop needing validation. You stop shrinking your light to fit in someone else's shadow. You begin walking differently, talking differently. You stop explaining your worth and start embodying it, and you become dangerous in the most beautiful way. Not to others, but to the old version of yourself that thought you needed to be chosen to be valuable. People will say, just move on. But it's not that simple, is it? Your nervous system is still addicted to their attention. Your mind replays the memories like reruns of a show you didn't even like that much. Just because you miss the comfort of familiarity. That's normal. That's human. But you don't live there anymore. You're allowed to feel the pain and still choose to rise. Letting go doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It means you won't let that hurt define your story. You win in the end, not because they come back crawling, though many do, but because you no longer need them to. The moment you stop reacting to rejection and start respecting redirection, everything in your life will shift. You'll stop crying over closed doors and start opening new ones they were never even invited into. So let them go. Let them have what they think they found. Let them believe they made the better choice. You're not here to fight for a seat at a table that was never worthy of your presence. You're here to build your own. You're not someone who waits to be chosen. You're someone who walks into his or her power and realizes, I was the blessing all along. And here's what I want you to do right now. Write this in the comments. I was redirected into greatness. Let the world see it. Let you see it. Let your past version hear you say it out loud, because the moment you stop seeing rejection as a death sentence and start seeing it as the divine assignment it is, that's when you win. Stay with me, because what's coming next will make everything even clearer. Number 2, you were never meant to compete for love. The moment you have to compete for someone's attention, you've already given away your crown. Let's clear this up, my friends. Love is not a contest, and you were never meant to play in one. Yet here you are, sitting with that sick feeling in your stomach because someone you cared about made you feel like you had to earn them, like you had to perform for them, like you had to become better, sharper, quieter, louder, different, just to keep them interested. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever felt like you were being measured next to someone else? Compared, maybe not with words, but with their energy, their behavior, their silence. You felt them drift. You felt them start pulling away. And in your mind, you told yourself, if I just try harder, if I just love them a little more, maybe they'll choose me again. That's not love, my friend. That's emotional roulette. That's you handing your power to someone who's too confused to even hold it. Imagine you're standing in front of a painting, your soul's painting. It's layered, deep, intricate. It has colors that no one else can replicate. But someone walks up, glances at it, shrugs, and says, I think I like the simpler one better. Now tell me, does that make your painting any less valuable? Or does it reveal that person's lack of taste, their lack of depth? You weren't too much. You were just too much for someone who only knew how to love on the surface. Here's the truth most people are afraid to admit. The right one doesn't put you in a lineup. They don't need to compare you. They don't need time to choose. They know. And when someone makes you feel like love is something you need to fight for, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. You're not bonding. You're battling. And that's where it starts to break you. Quietly, slowly, you start second-guessing yourself. Should I change the way I speak? Should I look different? Should I hold back how I feel? You start editing yourself to keep someone else entertained. And in doing so, you slowly start erasing yourself, all so they might pick you. But what if I told you, you were never supposed to be picked? You were supposed to walk with your head high, crown on, completely unmoved by the fact that someone couldn't see what was standing right in front of them. Let's break the lie wide open right now. You don't compete for love. You attract it by being completely, unapologetically yourself. And if someone can't receive that, that's not your failure. It's their filter. It's tough though, isn't it? Because we've been conditioned to believe that the more we give, the more we'll be loved. That if someone's drifting, we just have to pull harder. But love isn't supposed to feel like dragging someone up a hill while bleeding from your own hands. Love isn't supposed to leave you exhausted and insecure. Real love, it feels like freedom, like alignment, like peace. So when someone chooses someone else, let them. That wasn't love walking away. That was confusion, immaturity, and superficiality. They didn't pick better. They picked easier. There's a difference. And here's the paradox. The second you stop fighting for someone who made you feel like an option, you become unavailable to every situation that disrespects your worth ever again. Because your soul remembers. It remembers what it cost you to beg for crumbs from a table you should have flipped over the moment you felt disrespected. You're not a contestant. You're the reward. You're not someone's maybe. You are someone's absolutely. And when you truly live that truth, you'll stop asking, why didn't they choose me? And start saying, thank God they didn't. There's a quiet power in being the one who no longer needs to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. That's where the game ends. That's when the energy shifts. That's when people who once overlooked you start feeling the ache of your absence. Because the one thing people regret most is not choosing the one who never needed to beg. You don't compete for your place in someone's life. You create a life so full, so vibrant, so elevated that anyone who walks away from you knows they'll never find another like you again. And trust me, they'll feel it. Not immediately, but one day, one scroll, one sleepless night. And when they do, they'll realize they had a rare thing and they lost it. So if someone made you feel like you had to prove your worth, thank them, because they just taught you what you'll never tolerate again. And now you're rising, you're becoming, you're evolving. Drop this in the comments right now. I don't compete, I attract. Say it out loud. Show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that you've stepped into your truth. And stay with me, because what's coming next? It's about to set you free even more. Number 3, they chose what looked easier. You choose what builds you. Most people don't choose better. They choose easier, faster, and familiar, and call it love. Let's call it what it is, my friends. They didn't choose someone better. They chose someone easier, someone who didn't challenge them, someone who didn't reflect their deepest insecurities, someone who let them stay the same. And you were a mirror. You showed them parts of themselves they weren't ready to confront. You didn't just give them love, you gave them growth. And growth? It scares people who are addicted to comfort. So don't sit there telling yourself you weren't enough. Don't spiral thinking they upgraded, because they didn't. They escaped. They left the weight room and walked into a playground. But playgrounds don't build warriors. Pressure does. Discipline does. Depth does. And while they were running toward distraction, you were being called into elevation. Let me paint this for you. Picture 2 roads. One is rocky, uphill, painful, but it leads to a mountain peak. The other, smooth, downhill, easy, but it circles back to the same valley of mediocrity every time. Most people, when faced with that choice, will pick the second. Not because they're evil, not because they're smarter, but because they're afraid. Afraid of the climb, afraid of being stretched, afraid of becoming more, because becoming more requires letting go of who they've always been. They didn't leave you because you were lacking. They left you because you were awakening them, and not everyone's ready to wake up. That's the lie we need to break today. The lie that says they picked someone else because you weren't enough. No, they picked someone else because you were too much for the version of them that didn't want to change. You were fire, and they wanted a candle. You were thunder, and they settled for silence. But let's be honest, it hurts, doesn't it? You showed up fully, you gave your best, you envisioned a life with them, and then they walked out, hand in hand with someone who didn't even know half of what you brought to the table. That pain? It's real. But it's not a signal that you failed, it's a signal that your path just got lighter. That the anchor they became is no longer tied to your ankle. That you're free to rise now. See, while they're out there searching for butterflies, you're building a garden. While they're looking for the next hit of validation, you're crafting a life that won't need constant fixing. You don't choose based on what's easy. You choose based on what aligns. You choose based on what grows you, stretches you, challenges you. Because you're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve. They chose comfort. You chose construction. They wanted fast. You're building forever. And there's a cost to that, yes. Sometimes it's loneliness, sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's waking up and remembering the face of someone who didn't stay. But every time that ache hits, remind yourself, you were not abandoned. You were being carved into someone they could never handle anyway. Here's what they don't realize yet. When you choose easy, you stay stuck. When you avoid challenge, you avoid growth. And one day, they'll sit across from the person they picked, realizing there's no depth, no fire, no edge, and their mind will wander back to you, to the way you loved, to the way you carried vision, to the way you made them want to become more, even when they didn't admit it. But by then, you won't be there. You'll be walking taller, speaking clearer, living better. Because the truth is, every time someone chooses the easy route, it's just proof they don't belong on yours. So if you're sitting there wondering, why did they pick them? Let me tell you something. They picked temporary relief. You are long-term reward. They chose what was convenient. You are what is consecrated, and not everyone is built to carry something sacred. So now you choose. You choose the path that demands more from you. You choose the grind, the rebuilding, the glow-up. You choose solitude over shallow attention. You choose discipline over distraction. You choose your damn legacy over their breadcrumb of affection. And that, my friend, is what separates those who fade into bitterness from those who rise into power. Right now, you might feel like the one who got left behind, but one day soon, you'll realize you were the one who got ahead, because you chose what built you, and the ones who leave for easier always come back. But they come back too late. So write this in the comments and speak it out loud. I choose what builds me. Say it like you mean it. Show them, show yourself, show the version of you that's rising from the ashes that you're done explaining your worth to people who couldn't carry your vision. And stay with me, because the next truth is going to remind you why letting them go was the greatest decision you never had to make. Number 4. The pain you feel now will be their regret later. They didn't feel the loss when they walked away. They'll feel it when they realize you're never coming back. Right now, it hurts. Let's not sugarcoat it, my friends. You feel like something was ripped from your soul. You wake up, and for a split second, you forget they're gone. And then it hits you like a cold wave. They chose someone else. They left. And the pain doesn't just sit in your heart, it floods your chest, your thoughts, your memory. You start replaying it all, what you said, what you didn't say, how maybe, just maybe, if you had done one thing different, they'd still be here. But I'm here to tell you something that you need to hear, even if it stings a little, that pain you're drowning in right now, that weight in your chest. One day, it won't be yours. One day, it becomes theirs. Because you didn't just give them time, you gave them truth, loyalty, vulnerability. You showed up in ways most people are too afraid to, and they walked away thinking that was normal, that they could find that anywhere, that they could leave and still be upgraded. But life has a way of revealing value too late. You see, when they walked away, they didn't feel the loss. They felt control. They believed you'd still be there, that they could test other waters and come back if it didn't work out. Because most people don't leave expecting to lose. They leave expecting to return to the same version of you they left behind. But what they don't know is that the moment they walked away, you started to transform. That pain in your chest? That's not just heartbreak. That's the sound of your old self being ripped away. That's your higher self being born. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you wanted to reach out, but didn't. That's not weakness. That's the weight of growth. That's your strength forming under the pressure of silence. And here's the twist most people never see coming. The more you evolve, the more they begin to unravel. Not immediately. Oh no. At first, they're fine. They're distracted, entertained, excited by the thrill of someone new. They tell themselves they made the right choice, that it was time for something different. And for a while, they believe it. But then something happens. something quiet, something subtle. They have a bad day, and suddenly they remember how you used to calm them down. They scroll through photos, and one pops up, the way you looked at them when they weren't pretending. They hear a song, and it doesn't sound the same without you in it. They start to realize the new doesn't feel the same. It doesn't touch the same parts of them. It doesn't see them the way you did. And suddenly, your silence feels like a scream. This is how regret works. It doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in. It whispers at first. Then it haunts. But here's where most people mess up. They feel that pain. They feel that growth. And right when the other person starts feeling regret, they go back. They answer the text. They reply to the story. They crack the door open, thinking maybe now it will be different. But it won't. Because if they only value you when you're gone, they never truly valued you at all. You weren't meant to become their lesson. You were meant to become unreachable, untouchable, so evolved that the version of you they walked away from no longer exists, so powerful in your silence that they can't even look at you without remembering how deeply they misjudged your worth. So yes, it hurts now, and it's supposed to, because this isn't just a breakup, this is a rebirth. The pain you feel now isn't the end of the story, it's the energy of becoming, and one day they will feel the very thing they thought they escaped, the cost of losing someone who loved them with their whole soul. Let them regret it, not out of revenge, not out of ego, but because they need to learn that not everything rare will wait for them, that you were not a placeholder, you were a blessing, and blessings don't come back once they're taken for granted. So breathe, let it hurt, let the silence sharpen you, and when the time comes, when they reach out with guilt wrapped in small talk, remember this moment, remember the pain, and then remember who you became because of it. Write this in the comments right now. My pain becomes power. Say it for yourself. Show the world that you're not breaking, you're building. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you why silence is the loudest message you'll ever send. Number 5. Letting go is the ultimate power move. The one who walks away without explanation holds more power than the one who begged you to stay. Letting go. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Just 2 words. But it's the hardest thing most people will ever do, especially when your heart is still in it, especially when your mind is still replaying the moments that felt real, especially when you're holding on to the idea of what could have been. But here's the truth, my friends. Letting go is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's not losing. Letting go is war. And it's the war you win in silence. Right now, your instinct might still be telling you to fix it, to reach out, to explain yourself, to remind them of all the things they're walking away from. But stop, breathe. That instinct, it's not love, it's fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear that you weren't enough, fear that someone else is enjoying what you built, and that fear will trick you into holding on to something that's already gone. The truth is, if they chose to leave, if they chose someone else, then what you're holding on to doesn't exist anymore. You're clinging to a memory, not a reality. You're gripping the ghost of who they were when they needed you, and ghosts don't come back to build, they come back to haunt. Letting go is not about pretending you don't care. It's not about burying the pain. It's about choosing yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I will no longer give my energy to someone who threw it away. It's about reclaiming your time, your peace, your power. Think about this. How many times have you hurt yourself trying to hold on to someone else? How many sleepless nights? How many texts you typed and deleted? How many memories you twisted just trying to make sense of their silence? And for what? For someone who made a decision and walked away like it cost them nothing. Letting go doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It means you finally understand that your worth is not measured by someone else's ability to stay. It means you're no longer willing to keep negotiating with someone who saw your soul and still said, "Not enough." Picture this. You're carrying a heavy bag through a storm. You're soaked, exhausted. Every step feels like a battle. And someone walks up beside you and says, "You can put that down, you know." But you say, "I can't. It's mine." Even though it's breaking your back. That's what emotional attachment looks like when it's not returned. And letting go, that's dropping the bag and realizing you never needed to carry that pain to begin with. They expected you to hold on, to spiral, to break. They thought you'd stay stuck in the loop, waiting for them to come back. But instead, you let go. You walked away. You said nothing. And that silence, that unchanged energy, that's what unsettles them. Because here's what no one tells you. The real power isn't in getting them back. The real power is when they try to come back, and you're no longer even available. They'll feel it eventually. That space you once filled, it won't be replaced. That version of you, the one who stayed up waiting, the one who would have done anything to fix it, that version is gone. And when they look for you, they'll find the echo of their own mistake. Letting go teaches you more than any apology ever could. It teaches you that peace is louder than closure, that silence is stronger than begging, that walking away from what disrespected you is the most sacred form of self-respect. And the truth is, they didn't expect you to be strong enough to walk. They didn't think you'd actually let go. But here you are, still breathing, still rising, still building, and they'll feel that distance one day. Not in your words, but in your evolution. So if you're wondering whether to hold on or let go, ask yourself this. Why are you holding on to someone who already let go of you? Why are you fighting for someone who made peace with leaving? That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And you're done abandoning yourself. This is your moment to rise, to drop the weight, to unhook your value from their choice, and to understand that letting go is not an ending. It's a portal, one you walk through alone, one that leads to a version of you so powerful, so untouchable, that you'll look back one day and thank them for leaving. So write this in the comments right now. Letting go is my power. Say it. Mean it. Live it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your worth is not tied to someone who couldn't stay. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you what happens when you become completely unreachable. Number 6. You're not in pain. You're in the middle of your upgrade. Sometimes it doesn't feel like transformation, it feels like destruction, but that's only because your old self is being broken to make room for your greatness. You think you're in pain. You think this ache in your chest, this tightness in your throat, this silence echoing in your heart means something's gone wrong, that you've been shattered, betrayed, abandoned. But hear me clearly, my friend, you're not in pain. You're in the middle of your upgrade. This isn't heartbreak. This is rebirth. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. And I get it. It doesn't feel like it. Right now, it feels like you've lost everything, like someone reached inside and ripped out a piece of your identity. But what if that piece wasn't meant to stay? What if they were never part of the next version of you? What if this exact moment of emptiness was the space being cleared so something greater could be built? Let's be honest, if they never left, you never would have seen yourself this clearly. If they never betrayed you, you never would have found your boundaries. If they never chose someone else, you never would have chosen yourself. So maybe the pain didn't come to destroy you. Maybe it came to introduce you to the version of yourself you were always meant to meet. Think of a snake shedding its skin. Do you think that process feels comfortable? You think it doesn't hurt to crawl out of what used to fit, only to feel raw and exposed for a while. Of course it does, but staying inside that old layer, that's suffocation, that's stagnation. And right now, you're crawling out of your old emotional skin. It hurts because it's real. But pain isn't always a wound. Sometimes it's a signal. You're growing. This is the part most people never understand. When you're leveling up, it doesn't feel glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with isolation. With nights when you stare at the ceiling and ask, "What did I do wrong?" With mornings when you have to fight just to pull yourself out of bed. That's not failure. That's the grind. That's the stretch. You're being expanded, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And anyone who's ever become someone great has walked through that exact fire. But here's the trick your mind plays on you. It whispers, they're happy without you. They moved on. You weren't enough. And that's where most people fall back. They chase. They break their own dignity just to try and erase the discomfort. But that's the trap. Because the pain isn't the enemy. The pain is the path. And if you lean into it instead of running from it, you come out the other side as something unrecognizable, not broken, but rebuilt. See, they thought they left you at your lowest. They thought you'd collapse without their attention. But what they didn't realize is that their absence became your construction site. Every tear you didn't post about, that was a brick. Every night you stayed in and read, trained, built, healed, that was another brick. Every time you bit your tongue and chose silence instead of chaos. Brick, brick, brick. You're building something and they'll never be allowed inside it again. They'll look back one day, they all do, when they realize the new person doesn't see them the way you did. When they remember how safe your presence used to feel. When they scroll and see that you're glowing differently now. And they'll try to reach for you again, but they won't be able to. Because you won't be where they left you. You're not in pain, you're under renovation. The demolition crew is doing its job. The outdated patterns are being bulldozed. The weak emotional walls are being knocked down. You don't need to be rescued, you're being rebuilt. And here's the real flex. When you finally emerge from this, when your light shines brighter, when your energy becomes magnetizing, when your voice no longer trembles, you'll realize they weren't even the point. They were just the trigger. You were always the weapon. So don't run from this phase. Don't numb it. Don't pretend you're fine if you're not. Feel it. Embrace it. But know that what's coming next will make this season make sense. You're not falling apart. You're falling into place. Write this in the comments right now. I'm upgrading in silence. Say it like a vow. To yourself. To your future. Let them think you're just hurting, but you know the truth. You're becoming, and what's coming next will show you exactly why this breakdown was the beginning of your breakthrough. Stay with me. The best part's still ahead. Number 7. The one who detaches first always wins. Power doesn't come from how much you care. Power comes from how well you can walk away when it no longer serves your soul. Let's make one thing clear, my friends. The one who detaches first doesn't lose. They win. They win not because they stopped loving, but because they started protecting themselves. Because when you detach, you take your energy back. You stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You stop watering a dead plant and start growing in your own direction. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Most people think detachment means you don't care, that you've gone cold, that you've lost emotion. But real detachment, it's deeper than that. It's when you still feel the pain, but you refuse to be ruled by it. It's when you could reach out, but you don't. When you could react, but you won't. When you could chase them down, but instead, you let them go and never look back. Let's break this down. They thought they had time to mess with your emotions, time to figure it out, time to keep you as a backup plan. But detachment, that's when the clock hits zero. No warning, no argument, just stillness. And that silence speaks louder than any message you could send. They expected you to wait, to hurt, to chase, to compete. But you chose power, you chose peace, you chose to no longer make someone your home when they treated you like a hotel. You see, most people don't realize what they had until you stop reacting, until you go quiet, until your energy disappears like it was never there. And when that happens, that's when they spiral. Not when you beg, but when you detach. Think of it like this. You were the flame. They were drawn to you for warmth, for light, for comfort. But they played with the fire, didn't they? They thought it would always be there. They didn't realize the flame has no obligation to keep burning for the one who didn't protect it. And once it goes out, it doesn't reignite for the same hands that smothered it. You weren't cold, you were exhausted, you weren't heartless, you were done bleeding, and detachment wasn't a punishment. It was self-respect, finally catching up. Here's the part that flips the game. The moment you emotionally detach is the moment they start chasing the ghost of who you used to be. Not because they suddenly grew up or found clarity, but because they no longer have access. Access to your energy. Access to your attention, access to your love. And the brain hates uncertainty. That's where your power lives now, in the unknown, in your silence, in your absence. Because when they no longer know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, where you are, who you're becoming, that's when they feel the void. And nothing haunts a person like the void left behind by someone who once cared, and now couldn't care less. Let them wonder. Let them scroll through old messages. Let them replay your last words. Let them feel what it's like to be dismissed, without anger, without drama, without a scene. That's stoic revenge, not through chaos, but through calm. Not through shouting, but through silence. That's when they realize the real ones don't beg. The strong ones don't compete, and the evolved ones don't return. I know it's hard. I know you still have love. I know your heart still checks the door sometimes. But don't confuse love with permission. You can still love someone and never allow them back into your life. Detachment doesn't mean your love was fake. It means it's sacred now, and not everyone gets to touch it. So stop questioning yourself. Stop asking, did I do enough? You did. Should I say something? You already did, with your silence. Will they regret it? That's not your business anymore. You don't need closure. You are the closure. You're the sentence they'll never finish. The chapter they'll keep rereading, trying to figure out what page you slipped away on. And let me tell you this, once you detach, really detach, there's no coming back. You can be kind, you can forgive, but your presence, that's a gift they don't get to unwrap twice. So write this in the comments right now. I choose peace over permission. Say it out loud. Feel the power in it. Let it echo through every part of you that used to beg for understanding, because you're no longer explaining your worth. You're embodying it. And stay with me, because now that you've detached, it's time to become the version of you they'll never be able to reach again. Number 8. The one they lost is never coming back. They walked away from you thinking you'd stay the same, but the version of you they left behind no longer exists. Here's the truth, my friends. They didn't just lose someone who cared. They lost someone who transformed because of the pain they caused. The moment they walked away, they thought they had time. They thought they could circle back later. But what they didn't realize is that your silence wasn't just a pause. It was the beginning of your evolution. See, they expected the same version of you to be waiting, the soft version, the forgiving version, the one that would drop everything at the sound of their name. But that version, you buried it, you burned it, you rebuilt yourself from the ashes of their absence, and now they couldn't reach you even if they tried. Let them miss you, let them feel the weight of everything they lost. Because this new version of you, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, isn't interested in being part of their lesson. You've become the one they remember but can't approach, the one they talk about but can't touch, the one who outgrew the story. They didn't leave you behind, they stayed behind. You're not bitter, you're just unavailable. Not because you're cold, but because you finally know your value. And once you know your value, you never settle again. So remember this, you didn't lose them. They lost the only person who truly had their back. And that loss, that's permanent, because you're not looking back anymore. You're not wondering, what if? You're building, thriving, rising. And the best part, you're doing it in silence. Drop this in the comments right now. I've outgrown who they left. Let it be your closure. Let it be your declaration. And if this message lit something inside you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because you're not just healing, you're becoming unstoppable, and they'll never get another chance to break you again.